It's time for Pure Performance.
Get your stopwatches ready. It's time for Pure Performance with Andy Grabner and Brian Wilson. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Pure Performance. My name is Brian Wilson, and as always, I have with me my fantastic co-host, Andy Grabner. Hi, Andy. How are you doing today?
I'm really good, and I'm looking at you, and I can see that your haircut looks very similar to mine.
Yes,
Short,
yes, it does.
Nice, sweet. Are you going anywhere where you had to be shiny today and like shave?
Yeah, I've got to go to the office to see my boss and some other directors on my level. So I wanted to make sure I looked somewhat presentable.
Nice.
I'm actually gonna wear pants today.
Yeah,
so
good.
That's always a good thing.
It's always a good advice for people that finally go back to the office, wear pants.
Don't
and
forget
maybe
the pants.
Shave.
Yeah.
Don't forget the pants. Yeah. Hey, talking about the office, I want to do a quick shout out to Roman, who today, as the time of the recording, he did a barbecue in the office, and I completely missed the message, and I only joined very late. But I wanted to say thank you for organizing this. Next time I will be there, and late congratulations to your wedding, because I know that was the reason why he did a barbecue in the office.
Congratulations.
Yeah, congratulations. But now I want to actually talk about platform engineering. Platform engineering is a big topic, has it been a big topic for us in the last couple of episodes. And Brian, at least that's the way I feel, I learned so much from the people that we interview.
Yep.
And I think the person that we interview today, our guest, Saim, he actually does the same thing because he has his own cloud native podcast. He's been interviewing people in the space over the last couple of episodes on his podcast. So you should definitely chime in. We put all the links to all of the stuff that Saim is putting out also in our podcast proceedings. But without further ado, Saim, please, first of all, welcome to the show. Do me the favor, introduce yourself.
Thank you very much, Andy. It's been a pleasure talking to you once again for the very first time, actually, on this. But we actually have some collaboration in the past on the Captain project, on some of the community stuff I'm doing on the Cloud Native Islamabad. And another thing, I think, before I start introducing myself, I put together a big thanks to the Andy's for his wonderful project, Captain project. I always see a wonderful community feedback when I'm talking in public around Captain project. But let me introduce myself a bit. I'm working as a developer relations manager at the Office system, and I'm also the CNCF Ambassador. And usually my learning is from Cloud Native Islamabad community, where I host live webinar and workshop with open source projects. And we do have some, I think, live stream on Captain project. I would encourage you to join those as well. And I'm also doing a podcast on Cloud Native podcast. And I remember when the Flux got, I think, into Petite or state, I had a podcast with Andy. I would definitely want you to listen to those as well. So that is how I'm actually learning on a daily basis while interacting with the community, but doing the workshops or doing the podcast.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, it's amazing what you're doing, right? You as you said, I think the last time we presented together, I presented on your platform was at KCD Islamabad that you had. You are, as I am, fortunate to be a CNCF ambassador, so to really talk to the community, educate the community on everything that the Cloud Native Computing Foundation is doing. And coming to the topic today, platform engineering. As I mentioned to you in the preparation, I am currently preparing for a talk at KCD Munich, which happens to be next week at the time of the recording. Now, if you listen to this, the talk is already over, so maybe you can watch the recording. But in the preparation of this talk, I try to do a lot of research, right? Because I don't want to just go on stage and say something where I'm not familiar with. So I do a lot of research. I listened to a lot, and also went back to some of our old episodes that Brian and I recorded. I remember we had Luca from Humanitech on. He made a really interesting statement back then. He said, you build it, you run it, doesn't scale, right? Great practices on DevOps and SRE, but it doesn't scale in an organization. This is where the emergence of platform engineering comes in to kind of productize the best practices of DevOps and SRE and bring it as an internal product to your developers to take away the challenges that they otherwise have if they would need to know all of the tools. Now, Saim, in your world, you have just released a couple of interesting podcasts as well, right? You had Alexis Richardson from WeForks on, and I think you have a couple of others. You also had one recently on success metrics for platform engineering with Romaric. I would like to know from you, what have you learned from these recent podcasts? What is the key takeaway from you? Because I'm pretty sure this will be great learnings from us as well.
Yes, absolutely. I think like for audience currently, like who are really newbie or might be in this domain for a very long time, or had been an industry expert, or happen to be exploring the DevOps world, and then they see there's a hype coming up with the platform engineering, and they say, where are we actually? How do we actually cope up? Do we live in the land where we tell people how to do DevOps in actual or real hardware? And how do we do a defined platform engineering? Well, I'm talking to a lot of the people. I think I had 81 episode on my channel, and I think recently for 20 or 15 of them is more focused around platform engineering. Mm-hmm. So if some people are listening to us and listening to me currently, I think they want to be interested. How do we people defining the platform engineering? I think I read one blog post over the internet from the team called, I think, Cycloid.io. And they actually wrote a blog post on 7 KPIs for the platform engineering teams. And one of the paragraph is really get my attention. They mention, according to the 2023 DevOps report, that after adopting platform engineering, majority of enterprises saw improvement in system reliability, 60%, product and efficiency, 59%, and workflow standards, 57%, while 42% reported improved development time. So these paragraphs is really gets to my nitty-gritty. And then I have started my journey. How are people defining what exactly the platform engineering is? I can tell you a few of the definition that I found very useful on the internet. And these were the different team members. I forget about the name, but I share the link with you so you can actually add those into the podcast note. The one way to think about what the platform engineering is, a platform engineer is responsible for reducing developers' cognitive load while interacting and delivering software. Meaning, when you start doing some development, you have to spin up infrastructure. Then you have to spin up environments. And then you have to spin up policy enforcements, then GitOps tooling, service meshes, sidecar think, in monitoring or observability. Are these all the responsibility of the developers to have spun it up and then deploy an application on top of it? What platform engineering promised to solve the problem is to have the environment pre-packaged built in. So meaning is removing the cognitive load from them. That is number one definition that I really like about it. Number two, I think somebody defining platform as a standard. They say like platform engineering is all about supporting developers. And that is overlapping to the first definition I read about in few minutes ago. The platform engineering is all about supporting developers. It's bring together experts from various fields in your organization to form a powerhouse team. And the third definition is more focuses around standardized or the specialized field. The mentioning platform engineering is a specialized field that focused on creating and maintaining the infrastructure and services that support the development and deployment of software application. So if you actually circle back and pause a bit and read it carefully, the message is same. Removing the cognitive load from development, but there's a missing point. What sort of the development workflow we need to remove from the team? That is not clearly mentioned until I met Alexis Richardson. And I think his definition is really catchier to me. During the podcast, we have a cloud native podcast. If you search on the internet or search on the YouTube, and there's a recent podcast with platform engineering. How did we get here? On last Tuesday, he mentioned, this is my definition of platform engineering. He mentioned platform engineering is how we simplify computing for every developer in our organization by creating environment for them to run their apps. Those environments are the platform, And the job of the platform team is to choose how they are built, where they run, and make sure they are always available in an easy way, separating the concern between automated platform and app devs who have an easy time, that is platform engineering. I think this really shines me a lot after reading bunch of definition. So I will actually slowly talk about few words from here. Number one, you mentioned the platform engineering is how we simplify computing for every developer. I think this should be the focus of platform engineering. This should be the focus of platform engineering. And I believe this is a focus of DevOps already been. But the DevOps word is more focusing around collaboration, meaning developers can file a ticket on Jira and asking, I need an EC2 instance to spin my application on EC2 instance. So meaning it comes towards me. This platform engineering said, simplify computing for every developer in an organization, meaning you don't file a ticket. It's already been simplified, meaning you have a pre-configured environments and we know what you need. It's already bundled up with all the packages and the dependency. Now you spun up your application on top of it. This is the number one, the goal of the platform engineering is. Then there is a discussion, what is the platform for developer? And Alex said, environment is a platform for the developer, meaning if developer is working on the GitOps enable infrastructure, meaning Flux and Argo CD already installed, this is the environment for the developer. Now the next question is, who has this responsibility to spin up those environments and where? He mentioned the job of the platform team is to choose how they are built and where they run, meaning developer asks me, I need an environment, I need a platform, AKA, and now platform team job is to give them a pre-packaged environment, but they have to choose how the platform or environment look like. And number two, where they run. These two are the job of the platform engineer. Then he says on the last few words on the definition is you have to separate the concern between the automated platform, meaning the platform engineering team, versus the app developer consuming those. So if you look at the definition, it might not fit in every scenario, but it seems to be a very reasonable to think about what we are approaching here.
Well, thank you so much. I tried to took a lot of notes here because I also want to digest the whole thing. If I kind of repeat a little bit on what I hear here, we want to make it as simple as possible for developers, kind of like a one-click self-service, so that they get the environment that they need to then focus on building their code, and then they commit their code into Git. Git is already pre-specified as part of the environment. And then it gets deployed onto the target environment that the platform team decided is the target environment for the organization. Right? It might be a certain cloud provider in a certain region, depending on what type of app they're building. But I think the separation of concerns is really that I, as a development team, can focus on building my code. I need to obviously in the beginning say what type of app I probably need. I think in platform engineering, we hear a lot about golden paths. So there might be more than one golden path, self-service. I need this environment because in an organization, right, Brian, if I just look in our organization, we have more than 1,000 developers and they're all building different types. Some are building Java components, some are building websites, some are building backend components. There might be different kind of golden paths, single one-click environments that they need. But in the end, it's taking away the cognitive load of developers to go otherwise through multiple steps of creating a ticket here, waiting for the response, doing this, getting a response until they can actually then start writing their code.
Yes, absolutely. I think if you consume a lot of the definition on the internet, is one word is really common, is removing the cognitive load.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and I think and that seems really reasonable. That seems very reasonable. But I think a lot of the definition is lacking about removing the cognitive load. But platform is huge. What is the platform for the developer? So Alexis point out that environments are the platform. So meaning if the developer like is working on the Java application and he has the EC2 instance spun up and then he install Ingress and service proxies and then he add application libraries for the Java components and he working on Java components, upgrading, patching, releasing updates for the Java components, this entire environment you call for the developer as a platform. Now the job actually tell like what is the developer's responsibility in the platform operator. So he mentioned like you think about the platform operator's job is to think about where this environment should be run. In order to run this environment, how to choose the automation framework or tools and complexities or tools to use to spun those environments are. And I think this definition is really a very key because it's talk about one few things. Let's say some people is talking about the software engineering is solely job if the platform engineering actually adopted globally is to write code and the platform engineering job is to spun up infrastructure. But here is one article on the internet from the I think Octopus Deploy team has wrote, and this talking about skill concentration trap. And in this definition, I think there's a hint of this skill concentration trap is meaning when you create a platform engineering team, you will likely to add people with most experience in areas the platform will cover. This can cause problem when the platform team think they know if they know better than the development team. I phrase this again. When the platform team thinks they know better than the development team, then development team lose the knowledge they need to run their software. And the third, development team lose the people who could migrate them onto the platform. That is super, super important. Yeah. I think everybody is listening to us because right now the focus is removing the cognitive load. So meaning the developer is just focusing around application development, meaning his not job is to spin up infrastructure. The spinning up infrastructure is the job of the platform engineering team. But if the platform engineering has all the knowledge to spin up infrastructure for development, then this can cause problem. Not for every scenario, but this can cause problem.
But I think this is a classical product problem, right? If you think about it, because if you think the platform is a product and you never talk with your users and you never see the problems on their end and you never measure how efficient they are, then obviously you start building and maturing a product based on what you think is best, but not based on what your users really need. And I think this is also a key point, right? What I think everybody's saying, a platform needs to be treated as a product. It needs to have a product mindset. You need to understand your users, the needs, the challenges that they have, and what they want. And based on that, design the product. And this needs to be a continuous thing. A product is never finished. I think that's...
Yeah, I also think there's another danger inherent in there as well. I mean, I think looking at it as a product is definitely a key piece. Because what it sounds like the potential, the negative potential here is to rebuild the silos that we spent the last 10 or so years breaking down, right? One of the big drivers of the DevOps movement was to break down the silos between the teams, get everybody thinking the same, which then resulted in this increased cognitive load for the developers. So it became this issue, and now it looks like we're trying to reset that, right? Or to course correct that so we can pull some of that stuff off the developers, out of their mind. But if we put too much of a wall, then the developer is never going to be thinking about what they're running their code on. We go back into that silo, and that then introduces the next bit of danger that I hope maybe we can address on this one. Maybe if we have to have another one, is that the developers are reducing their cognitive load and just focusing on writing, the code that they need to operate, not necessarily thinking about the platform. Are developers still thinking about performance? Are they still thinking about resiliency in their code? Or are they going to stop? Are they just going to write code, put it out there, and not care about how it performs. That's someone else's job, right? So how do we keep some of the best practices that we might have gotten from the original DevOps movement into this platform side so that we have still reliable, fast, responsive platforms without the silos?
Yeah, I think for me, and Sam would also be interested in hearing in your opinion, if you think about the first platform, well, let's say maybe not a platform, but if you think about, let's say, AWS or Azure or Google, right? I can go to them and sign up for an account, and I get a lot of the services that make it very easy for me to deploy an app. Right? That's for me actually a platform, and I don't need to worry about how to get the hardware or how to maybe deploy even my app somewhere, because there is very easy services that just allow me to give a container and then they run it for me. But I think what they're doing well is two things. But first of all, they make me aware of the costs. I think because that's the thing, right? The cost aspect of everything, we need to make costs transparent, because in the end, you need to pay for it. And that should also be a big factor for an internal platform that they build. But I think what these organizations also do well, the reason why we go to them, the reason why we know how to build apps on these platforms is because they also do a really great job in educating people on how to use their platforms correctly. So if you think about building an internal development platform, it's not just about you build a product and you give it to your customers, which are your internal developers. You need to treat them as customers that you may also lose. You want to retain them. You want to make them efficient. You want them to stay with you. And therefore, as part of product development, you need to have advocacy. You need to have good documentation, best practices. All of this belongs to the whole life cycle of a product. And I think that's an important piece as well to not forget.
Yes, absolutely. I think I just give you, just to wrap up in a few minutes here, I think for me, the important thing, if you look at the virtualization wave, I think that's really tell us where we are right now. Look at the virtualization wave. What is the outcome of the virtualization wave? Cloud computing, AWS, Azure, GCP. The outcome of the virtualization wave is cloud computing. I think one thing AWS does best compared to other is they not defining the standard for deploying infrastructure. They're not talking about hyping things. They're talking about one very important aspect. Our cloud will be used by enterprises, and these enterprises has their developers or others customers. So let them open to them. They define what their users need. We don't define them. We can give them a pre-packaged infrastructure to work with, and then they can add their opinion on top of it. So basically, they target the enterprises, and then enterprises saw an opportunity. So AWS is a very generic model. Let's simplify it with our own innovation, and then let's build a business out of it. What is the outcome of the containerization wave? It's blurry. But I believe platform might be the outcome of the platform, or containerization. Might be wrong, but look like the containerization wave outcome is platform engineering. Might be we have another name for it. But one thing is actually very important here. I believe after a few years from today, nobody's spinning up Kubernetes cluster locally. I think they will be using services, EKS, AKS, GK. Nobody using. So this means Kubernetes, if nobody's spinning up infrastructure locally, but where they run infrastructure, how they're using Kubernetes in the platform. Now, the question is some people feel like, if you look at, I can link the Andy with you, share the link with you. The Dave Farley talk, what could go wrong with platform engineering hype? He mentioned very critical aspect. I really like about it. He said the platform engineering messages is solely around tools and their complexity of use. Like they mentioned, Kubernetes is so complex. Developers can't learn Kubernetes and can't install effectively if you give it to them. Let's spin up another team that's called platform engineering team, and their job is to spin up Kubernetes for them, and developer is using it. So the message is developer is only writing the code, and the platform engineering is engineers are spinning up the infrastructure. We talk about skill concentration trap, and that's happening right now in many of the companies or in other enterprises. But the Dave Farley pointed out, there's not a problem of tool and their complexity of use. There's a problem of design principle. We come up with the technologies that are so complex to adopt, but we don't able to come up with the design that make it easier for consumption. So if you create another team that's called platform engineering, you still where you are previously in the DevOps world. You have cultural changes that you couldn't do it. Sometime their culture changes require you do not create another team. Let's use the same DevOps team. And the whole movement is now create a platform engineering team. How much of the organizations and the enterprises can actually accept those strategies? That still requires a cultural changes. Mm-hmm. So I think the latter here is, I think the key point, number one, virtualization waves creating cloud computing. The outcome would be AWS, Azure, GCP. Mm-hmm. The containerization wave, we are blurry, but I think there are hints the platform engineering is the outcome. The message is correct or not, that is we still need to reason about in the future.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's well, first of all, thank you so much for giving us this kind of collective summary of all the stuff that you have taken and listened to and talked with people from all the different organizations. You mentioned Dave Farley, obviously somebody that has his own channel out there that talks constantly about these trends and platforms and tools. Also, you mentioned, I think, Octopus, a couple of good blog posts there. So we'll add all the links to the description. Now, Saim, I'm interested now because I know you are part of the CNCF working group that deals with the CNCF white paper on platform engineering. There's also, the group is also working on a platform maturity model, which is also very important. And I just wanted to make sure that we are also pointing people to these working groups and to the content that comes out of the CNCF. Can you talk a little bit about the white paper, what the intention of the white paper is, and then also the maturity model? Because we talked about this before. I think you want to get more feedback and more engagement of the community.
Yes, absolutely. I think the number one, I think I will let people how the things work in the CNCF. There's a group called TAG. TAG is being technical advisory group. And in TAG, there are different chapters. There's a cloud native maturity group, I guess. There's a platform working group, and there are a bunch of other. Within the one group that's called platforms working group, and that is a dedicated channel associated within the CNCF Slack channel. You can join those as well. Our movement is, number one, is to let people, the stakeholders, know how to define the platform engineering in more generic and a vendor neutral way of defining the platform engineering way that most of the community members are actually accepted the definition that actually provided by the TAG observability group. Mm-hmm. Number two is we talk about there is a forward thinking with all of these approaches. When you happen to adopt Kubernetes, just talking about, because we live in the world, me and Andy is more live in the Kubernetes world. So we talk about Kubernetes for sure here. So if you adopt Kubernetes, if you spun up Kubernetes locally, you don't have to access, you don't have a way in Kubernetes to access Kubernetes from outside the cluster. There's a service you can do hacky ways to do it, but meaning there's no way of it. You have to install ingress controller. Then you need a logging mechanism that your application and logging becomes separate. You have to adopt service meshes. Then you need a drift detection. You use Argo CD and Flux. Then at the end of the day, when application is deployed and working very efficiently in the live environment, you want to see the traces and troubleshooting. You have tools for that. And then you have monitoring, observability, Prometheus and Grafana is a king in here. So meaning there's a stepping ladder for all of these steps. So what CNCF platform paper and we wishes to become one, giving a maturity model that people can consume if they live in the container virtualization wave, come into the containerization wave, read the platform white paper, look at the things that we mentioned here, and then they actually saw an improvement, and they can talk about how the stepping ladder become easier for them, because currently it's so sophisticated and complex. So that's one thing, the platform white paper. And it's now, if you go to the TAG website, TAG app delivery cncf.io white papers platforms. If you go to this website has all the content available. We have talked about why platform. Number one, important to let leaders overview why we're talking about platform at this moment of time in 2023, or not before. Number two, the table of content says, what is a platform? Like we're defining, I think if you go to the internet, your head start rumbling and scratching your head. What are the best way to define platform engineering or platform? Because there are so many ways. And our way is to come up with terms that is more oriented towards like a vendor neutral space. Number two, attribute of the success platform. If you're using platform and you don't know how do I measure my metrics for this platform, I think you lost. To be honest, you are lost, absolutely lost, because you don't know. Because in human want to track themselves. If you want to become a good in any field as a human, you want to set your metrics for you. Like if I have to wake up early in the morning, I have to do this thing, I have to get rid of these activities, and then I finally have the liberty to achieve this final algorithm and looking at it. And that's look at the platform in the same way. Like you spun up the platform, and now you look like how the developer are consuming. If they're consuming correctly, how do you actually success the measure out of it? So measuring the success of the platform, and number two, measuring the success of the platform teams. We do happen to run some surveys, I think that are not listed in here, because we're actually going through some of the existing survey we have got, and then we actually compile all the data in a very chartered way, so that's easily consumable for the reader. So that's the currently work has been done. The next few things we're talking about, how to measure like attribute of the success of the platform, how to measure the success of the platform, and capabilities of the platform. This is the content if you read today, and you have any opinions, because this is an open source contribution anybody can make. And we want the organization and enterprises to have their opinion on this paper, because this is for the general audience, the stakeholder of the platform, consumers and the producers. So their opinions is very important. So that is currently the work that already being done. Is I think the bi-weekly meeting happening on 9 a.m. Pacific time. I think every 2 weeks from Tuesday, 9 a.m. Pacific time. So I definitely encourage everybody listening to me, join those meeting and let us know where we're actually heading to. The next big thing we're actually working right now, and that's super important, is platform maturity model. I think if some of the listening to us, they know there's a cloud native maturity model, because there's a CNCF landscape has tiles and projects and the open source offering, and the maturity model tells you how to navigate those tiles in a productive way. This platform maturity models is tell you what are the how you look at the developer experience. If you look at the developer experience of the platform, what are the questions you need to be considered, and what are the answer platform gives to you? If you think about usability, if you think about who are the actually stakeholder consuming the platform, like developers, DevOps engineer, platform engineer, product team, who are actually the user of the platform, we listed those in well. So currently there's a work being done. So I'm actually looking at the doc right now. There's we're creating a model of the summary in the platform. I share with Andy, he can actually linking about one-off funding, volunteer contribution, proof of concept, annual platform budgeting, design platform engineering team, platform team budget, and dedicated platform product manager, platform budget coupled to value products, team profits, loss, and team dedicated to some capabilities. And this, I think we were working on a very, and that is actually happening for the next few months before the KubeCon Chicago. I think this is a very super way. This is a very important time to be in those discussions, because this will become a very important read if we happen to see the enterprise actually jumping into it and start contributing to it.
So that for me means, we will obviously encourage every listener here to follow the links to the CNCF platform white paper. Also check out the platform maturity model, more so become active in the discussion to define what platform engineering is and what the maturity model looks like by joining the bi-weekly calls. So we will put all the links in the description. I will also take this, and thank you so much, Saim, for the time now, because it's perfect timing for my talk in Munich next week. So I will definitely make sure to encourage people to join these communities and become active members of defining the future of platform engineering. And then hopefully we'll see the fruits of this and the outcome in Chicago in November. It is fantastic. It's amazing. And for me, the interesting thing is, right, in most of my conversations I have these days with our user community, platform engineering is a very predominant topic. And this is why being here now on being part of this movement and being part of the team that can actually define what platform engineering is, especially in a vendor neutral way, is very important. Because like we all vendors, at least Brian and I, we are all vendors of observability. So we don't want to dictate how we think things should go, but we want to work with the collective community to define platform engineering. And then we'll also figure out what the place and role and capabilities of observability is really.
Yeah, it's interesting too, because I know you gave fantastic definitions earlier. I'm only focusing on one part of it here, so I don't mean to demean any of the definition from earlier, because I think that was absolutely brilliant. But one of the things that I see, at least on my side, is, with the dawn and advent and adoption of platforms like Kubernetes, it's really become the proverbial Wild West. Everyone's doing everything their own way. You think, Kubernetes was supposed to be some sort of standard, and every single different aspect of that framework has been customized out the wazoo, right? So platform engineering seems to be bringing, or potentially even enforcing, a maturity model upon where we've gotten to. Because now it's going to say we're going to start simplifying it, instead of it being just like, you mentioned earlier, people like AWS or Google defining these things, right? They don't have the ability to define for individual groups and organizations, but within an individual group and an organization, we can start to define what that platform is. We can start to really lock it down into these different platforms so that it's consistent, it's reliable. The developers can really just concentrate on what they need to. They get rid of all that mental overhead, as you said. But there's a model there that then is a lot more solid, a lot more reliable. And when you step into it, you're like, all right, great. Here are my parameters. Here's what I got to do. Done thinking about it. I don't have to think about the million other variations, especially as a developer, right? And not to blame developers, but I feel like developers are part of the reason it's gotten so complex, because of the natural curiosity that they have. They say, there's all these different things we could do. Whether we should do it, whether it's going to help, it just looks really cool. It might be really fun. Maybe I'm going to experiment, right? You take that power out of their hands, for better or for worse, but you give that power to the platform team, who can really focus their attention on those decisions. Hey, this might be cool. This is experimental, but because we have a very specific need to deliver to our customers. So if we're going to use this, it's got to be worth it, right? As opposed to just using it for fun. And it really just speaks to the maturity of it. So hopefully we'll start to see some sanity come to the landscape, because it's insane right now. I don't know if you all see that, but from where I sit, like the customers we run into, everything is just absurd. Like, it's exciting, but it's absurd. And it's so hard to stay on top of all of it,
Yeah. Hey, Saim, maybe as kind of final words, what are some of the things we haven't talked about yet, but still want to make sure that our listeners understand? Obviously, besides sign up, join these communities, be active. What else is there from a platform engineering side that we want to make sure people don't miss, people don't forget, maybe people get wrong? What is there?
Yes, absolutely. I think I happen to see, if you look at the DevOps world, and when I think DevOps for the region where you both are, like Brian and NTR, might be very older for you, but the geography I'm living in, it's very new to us. while we're talking about DevOps. And now the enterprises think, oh, DevOps is very new to us. There's a new thing coming out, the platform engineering. So what they does is like for the DevOps, they start joining internee for their company. And I was debating with the companies and the individuals. Don't do for the DevOps job. Don't go for the first DevOps job. It's very difficult for you because DevOps requires a lot of the knowledge for the pre-packaging. And if there are a listener are listening to us for the platform engineering, and usually when you think there's a hype coming up, everyone want to be in there, like for the individuals, for the companies, for the enterprises, for the foundation, everybody want to be in this hype. So I think my suggestion for the developers or the DevOps engineer or the practitioner or the technologists, this is a very sophisticated landscape. This requires a lot of innovation, a lot of the different thinking around the different software development landscape. You have to be very opinionated about what Kubernetes is doing and what it isn't good for. You have to tell people up front. And this requires a knowledge, and there's a steep learning curve behind it. And remember, when you start adopting Kubernetes, there's a landscape. You can't hide this landscape. You have to follow this ladder of landscape. You have to learn ingress controller, service meshes, tracing observability, drift detection with Argo CD and Flux, and you monitoring your observability. This is your job. And then if you land up into the platform engineering, I think this area, this discipline is very easier for you. And I think that's the reason why might be Andy for me is a very happy place because we've been into this place for a very long time. I'm not a very long time, but I still spent 5 years in the Kubernetes landscape. And Andy is a most prominent figure in this domain. So for both of us, it's very easy to talk about these things. But the newbies coming into this world, remember, there's a landscape behind you. And if you need to answer, otherwise you feel tough questions. And experts like us always ask tough questions if you happen to come across. But that's a joking point, but do have to think about, like have to go through the landscape. So that's for the beginners, actually. I will encourage them to be familiar with the landscape, look at the tooling I've got in the Kubernetes, and then lift your forward with a platform engineering way. Then there's two companies currently. One is Kubernetes companies, one are outside Kubernetes. And then there is a multi companies, like they have a few workloads on Kubernetes and few workloads on Terraform base or outside Kubernetes cluster. And remember, this is same happening. Sometimes I'm really excited to see stuff happening the same way. If you look at the container, like virtualization wave outcome platform or cloud computing, what now we're talking about the multi-cloud. There's the teams who are using AWS and there's the teams who are using Azure. Look at the containerization wave. Might be the platform engineering is an outcome, but the debate is same. The multi or the hybrid world, Kubernetes world and outside the Kubernetes world. So if there are other organizations listening to us, if your customers are dealing with non-Kubernetes way, I think the Kubernetes is an easier way to actually manage the outside world of the Kubernetes, because Kubernetes is a giant community. And if you solve the problem of Kubernetes with the tooling outside of the Kubernetes, job is tough. You can do it, but the job is tough. So these are the things you have to consider for these hybrid kind of Kubernetes-based setup. But if you are in just a Kubernetes setup, then meaning you have to look at the intricacies of the platform engineering and what isn't it. That's a very important understanding. What isn't it, the platform engineering for Kubernetes world. And if you happen to be still in the virtualization wave, then I hope, and everybody is hoping, that platform engineering becomes a more maturity model for those organizations that haven't been into the container world or into this world of computing. That platform engineering gave us a path to become one. So that are my opinion for those listener. And for the final readers or final listener of this conversation is those who are thinking about how the platform engineering emerged. So I believe the advent of the cloud computing, infrastructure as code, DevOps, continuous delivery, increasing complexity and scale needed for standardization and efficiency. And with the growing importance of observability and monitoring, the rise of containerization technology like Docker, like Kubernetes, contributed to the need for the platform engineering. That's are my own words, but you can actually criticize. That is your, you can do it. The next, if you want to be the effective platform engineer, meaning you need to deal with effective collaboration, communication, leadership skills to guide teams, make strategic decisions, manage resources effectively, and drive project to success are key skills that platform engineers should possess or adhering to. And for the final debate, what could be how your platform should look like? So my thinking at this moment of time might be changed in future. The platform should possess capabilities. And remember, there's no one size fit all lies in here when I'm talking to you. A platform should possess capabilities include, not limited to, standardized automation, consistent security policies, Kubernetes multi-tenancy, access management, and single administration pane, offering visibility for the entire infrastructure spanning multiple clouds. And with that, I take it over to Andy, and thank you very much for giving me to talk about the topic I always love speaking about. Thank you very much once again for giving me opportunity.
Thank you so much. And it's clear to, even though people cannot see you besides the picture we took in the beginning, but they can hear the excitement that you have about this topic and how you bring this over to our listeners. I have nothing to add other than I wish you all the best in your working group. I'll try to join as much as I can as well. I'm looking forward to seeing you again, hopefully at KubeCon in Chicago or wherever else our paths cross. Brian, any final words from you?
Yeah, just the fact that, we had our first platform engineering podcast, a few months ago, three months ago or something, and hearing Saim speak about it, it's already so far advanced. I had just heard about it when we had our first podcast. That was and it is, where it's come and knowing that there's so much behind it, it's quite amazing. And so Saim, thank you so much for everything you're doing with this, because I think it is something that's very much needed. So for you and everyone else who are working out this problem and trying to set up the proper way path forward and educate people on this, just really, really thank you a lot, because it's needed, and it's also exciting. It's technology starts to get boring over time, which is why I think we always advance it. So, and you can hear the excitement, as Andy said, the excitement and the passion in the way you're speaking about this. It's definitely something to start looking into if you haven't already. So thanks again for being on.
Thank you, everyone.
All right, thanks everybody. We'll talk to you all next time. And good. Happy computing. I don't know.
Happy platforming.
Happy platforming. There you go, Andy. Perfect.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.